Okay, welcome back everyone to week one, day one of Coding Dojo, of Web Fundamentals, of your new path in life. So we are going to go over a couple more introductory features that we're going to need for you to get started here. We're going to show you how to get started with, am I on the right part here? Yep. With the Visual Studio Code. Okay, we're going to go over how to download that, some extensions that you want to add to that, and a couple of rules here with our first introductory language, HTML. Okay, so what we're going to want you to do is set up an editor, and this editor is called Visual Studio Code. This is going to be your main tool, one of your main tools from now on. It's developed by Microsoft, okay? And as I mentioned, it is equivalent to, for writing a paper, for writing a letter, a Microsoft Word, okay? So most of the work you're going to be doing is on Visual Studio Code. Of course, there are other ones. There's some, like one named Atom, for example, you know, you can use whatever you like, but all the work that I'm going to be doing and demonstrating on is using Visual Studio Code. Okay, so it's super cool. It's very helpful. Make sure that you make the right download, because there's Visual Studio and then there's Visual Studio Code. Make sure you get Visual Studio Code. Okay, the instructions for downloading and getting set up for Mac and Windows is all here on the platform. So for myself, I would be clicking this link here for the Visual Studio Code for Mac. So if I go ahead and click this, and I click this download at the top right, it's already started downloading here. And you'll see this in your downloads folder. So if you click these three dots at the top right of your browser, and I recommend that you use Chrome as your browser, okay? If you don't know how to get a hold of that, just go to Google, type in Chrome, and you should be able to download Chrome. All the browser features that I would be featuring from now on will be on Chrome. So go ahead and take advantage of this. It's a super cool browser. If you haven't heard of it yet, where have you been? It doesn't matter if you don't know about it. We are here to learn anyways. Download Chrome and use this. It's going to go very handy with Visual Studio. So let's say you have Chrome already, and you can download this on the browser you have anyway. So just go to your downloads folder, and you're going to see this here. You have a zip file. It's a certain type of file that when you click on it, it's going to unpackage a bunch of files that are bundled together. You'll go ahead and download and install Visual Studio Code, and that will get you started, okay? Once you go ahead and do that, you can follow along with me, but I am going to just assume that you're going to be able to do this pretty smoothly on your own after this lecture, okay? And let me go ahead and show you what Visual Studio looks like. Okay. Here it is, Visual Studio. It looks like this when you first get started here. And for myself, I am going to create a new folder in Visual Studio Code. So what I will do is I'll click Open, okay? And you'll see here, I have access to my folders here. I'm going to go to Desktop, and I'm going to say New Folder. And this folder is going to be called Example, because I'm giving you guys an example here. And it's going to automatically enter that folder when you type in the name of the new folder. I'm assuming here for the Mac users, you can follow me. If you're struggling with PC, I will go ahead and help you get set up there. It's pretty much the same concept for PC, though. You'll have to make a new folder and open it up from that open folder link there on the Visual Studio interface. Click open. Okay. And now I am able to see my folder here. It just says the name of it here at the top left. That means I'm in this folder. That's the folder I'm currently in. So within here, I will have this blue section where I can put more folders and more files into those folders, and I'll be able to access this. It's like a filing cabinet, basically, you're going to have here on your left, and you'll be able to parse through the folders and files that you'll be using and editing here. Okay. Let's go ahead and even though it may seem early, let's do our first status check. Okay. Let's go ahead and see how we're following along so far. Is everyone with me? Give me a rating through 1 through 10. Awesome. Okay. Nice. I expected all 10s because so far this is pretty basic stuff. All right. So let's go over a couple of additions to Visual Studio Code to help you get started. So let's look at the platform here and view here so that we know where to reference this in case we need to remember later. Okay. There's a couple of tools that are optional. They're not built by Microsoft necessarily. Some may be, but they're built by other developers to help make your experience using Visual Studio Code a bit cleaner, a bit more helpful, and they can work together in conjunction with each other. But it could slow you down and confuse you if you just go installing them without any discretion. I remember my first coding job, I had a coworker who she had so many extensions installed that it made her Visual Studio Code just completely red. Like there was red squigglies, like when you're on Microsoft Word and it's saying that you have like an error. And it was nothing that she had wrong. There was no errors that she had. She just had too many extensions installed. So that's my warning to you before I show you how to install extensions. Be careful because you may install some extensions that are maybe outdated, they're deprecated, or they're just not going to work well with each other. And they'll make things wig out and you'll think you'll have a problem that you don't really have, or it actually may cause a problem, or it just may be too complicated or unuseful. So with that being said, let's just go over some basic extensions that are going to be recommended for us for now. Okay. So the first one is Indent Rainbow. So the extensions button is on this bottom left area here. Okay. And if you go ahead and click it, you should be able to see some for me that I already have extensions installed. You're going to see what I already have here. You're going to have some recommended extensions here at the bottom. Don't click these for now. We recommend just the few that we're going to give you. The first one is Indent Rainbow. What this helps you do is make indentation a little bit easier for you. Okay, so for this one, I'm just going to click install here. And as soon as this button here or that loading icon is done, it's already installed, it's already in use. I'll show you what this does exactly in a little bit, but as you can see here in this image, there's these different colors. There's the yellow, green, and purple, and that's going to just show you how far indented each line is. That's going to just help you keep your lines of code organized. Oh, and by the way, you may see that my Visual Studio Code here is dark or black. I will show you how to change that in just a moment. The reason I changed mine to darker color is because it's easier for me to work with and see. Some Some people prefer a white background, and that's totally fine. I myself get tired eyes. I always played video games that, when I was young, and I was too close to the screen. So now that I'm an adult, my eyes are like, they get burnt out pretty fast. And so I have to sometimes wear these like blue screen glasses. I have to make everything dark mode, but that just comes with the job. But I'll show you how to adjust that in just a second if you're wondering why this color here is different than what you may have already installed. Okay, so that's the first extension. Let's install that one. There's material icon theme. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy this, install this. Oop, clicked on the wrong button here, sorry. I'm gonna erase indent and paste it here. And there it is here. You can drag this out to make this a little bit more visible. Material icon theme. And what this does is, for all the icons, for different types of files that we are going to have installed, they are going to be just bigger visuals, more clear visuals for what type of file. And it's going to give you this little icon. So if we're working on a JavaScript file, it's going to have this yellow JS. Or if we're working on an HTML file, I think it's in alphabetical order here. So A, B, C, D, F, G, H, F, G, H, HTML. Here it is. This 5, because HTML level now is 5. This is the 5th edition. There's also CSS, right? So there's going to be a lot more different types of files as we go along in this Coding Dojo journey. So go ahead and install this. This will just help you have a better visual. You can click your type of file faster. You won't get mixed up. And the third one here that we recommend is open in browser. So the first type of language we're going to teach you here is HTML, as we already discussed. And this is specific to HTML, so that when you build a page in HTML, when you right click on the page, you'll be able to view your work in the browser really quickly. Okay, so if you click here, did it again. Click here and type in paste, open in browser, you'll see the third one. And there's some with similar names here, and they may work similarly. And you want to go with the one with the highest rating. So this one here has 7.1 million installs. So that's probably the best one there. And some of them may have higher ratings, but they have less installs, so they're not going to be graded as hard. Just be sure to keep track of the type of installations you're installing, just so you don't overwhelm your Visual Studio Code and make your experience a pain. Okay, let's go over these other icons. You've already seen me click this search one here. You'll see me use this more in the future because I don't have any files available to see right now. If I want to search all the files and all the folder structures that I have, I can go through the search and I can say, whatever word I want to search, it's going to search all my folders and files. This is going to be a super helpful tool. Maybe not so much now, but down the line, it's going to be very helpful because you're going to have a lot of folders, a lot of files. You're going to say, you're going to say to yourself, I don't know where I put that specific piece of code and which file it lives in. Just type in that keyword. It's going to give you all the references to every single instance you've typed in that word. Okay, this here is for GitHub. Okay, we're going to go over more what GitHub is in the future. I already mentioned it. It's a place where you can publish your code. You can't just send certain types of files over email. Like if you try to send some certain types of file over Gmail, Gmail will restrict you and say, it will say, excuse me, this type of file is not allowed to be sent because it could be malicious. Maybe you open a file with some JavaScript in it and it makes your computer do something that you don't want it to do. For that reason, we have a certain place to put all of our apps and projects. We put it on GitHub. Okay. And GitHub is a place where you want to be careful as well. You don't want to download certain apps that you don't know what they do or where they're from. But it's also a place where we're going to publish our work from now on. So once we get into detail about what GitHub is and how to use it exactly, it can be a bit of a headache getting into it at first. But it's going to be something that you may show your future recruiter or employer to show your projects, to show the work that you've built here at the dojo. And it'll show your progression. It'll show how often you code. So every time you publish, there's going to be a little notification there that shows how active of a coder you are. And that itself may be super impressive to the employer. Just to see that you're publishing every day or multiple times a day is something that will look good for you. Okay. I'll go over how to use this feature on Visual Studio Code a little bit more in this afternoon's lecture. But for now, just know that this button here is for GitHub. And for this button here, it's a run and debug button. You're not going to need to know what this does until much later. It's for checking how your code is working for JavaScript and other types of languages. For now, you don't need to worry about this. Let's just worry about how to use this one at the top left, which is the File Explorer. So this is like a filing cabinet that you can use to view all your files and folders. Okay. So let's get a status check how we're feeling about everything so far. Awesome. 100. Wow, that's 10 times more than. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to type it in the chat at any moment or just interrupt me. I don't mind if you interrupt me. Just interrupt me or raise your hand and I'll call on you. Okay. Since we're all good here, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic here, files and folders. Once we've made a folder, we can put files into it. Right now we're at the base folder. So let's go ahead and show multiple ways that we can use this. So I've opened this example folder. I've demonstrated that already. But let's say I want to put another folder inside this example folder. Oh, I clicked the wrong button there. This button here, if you hover over it, it's the second one on this list of 4. It stands for new folder. Okay, this folder icon. And you can type in another folder name. I'll call this example. I'll call this inner folder. Okay. And by the way, when you're naming folders, don't put the space in between like this. Okay. It's just not good practice. And generally this will break something. Okay. So always divide words by the underscore or dash. Oops, dash. Okay. I like to use the underscore. And so here is another place, another way you can save folders inside the folders. Okay. You can press enter or click out to make that appear there. You can also right click in this section here and click new folder. That's also going to give you that option. Inner folder 2. So we just have the first one and 2. Okay. And then in this inner folder, I want to give an example file. So I will click on this folder here. Once this is highlighted like this, I will click this button on the left-hand side of this list of 4, and you'll see it says new file as I hover over it. And here I will type in the name of the file. So This is an MD file. That means I can just put text, basic text in here. And if I want to put multiple files in this folder, you can do that. You can either do that by right-clicking the folder and typing a new file. And you'll have 2 files in this folder now, or you can click this button and then once it's highlighted, click the new file button. So you have multiple ways of creating a file within the folder. Or you don't have to put files in a folder necessarily. This you can close them out here, and you can just enter a new file by itself as long as it's in the folder, in a folder. For example, I'm already in this example folder. So in this example folder, there's the inner folder, inner folder 2, and now I'm just putting a file by itself. It doesn't live in any particular folder except for the example folder that I already have open. So I'm going to call this one example 3. Now I can type something in here. Okay. Another thing you can do here is drag folders and files. So if I want to put example 3 into inner folder 2, if I open inner folder 2, you'll see it doesn't really open because there's nothing there. But if I want to put something into it, I can pick it up, drag it in there. It'll ask me, do you want to really move this example 3 into inner folder 2? And I say yes. So now it's in there. So if I close this folder, you'll no longer see that file living outside without any folder structure. It's now all our folders have files inside, and you can even drag folders into folders. Okay. So if I want to drag folder 2, inner folder 2 into the original inner folder, I can do that by just dragging this like this. Every time you do a drag, it's going to ask you. If you click this do not ask me again, it's a bit risky because you may just do a misclick here and there. It happens all the time. And it's a lot harder to reverse. It's not like when you edit a text and you do click edit undo. I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. But this is it's harder to keep track of your changes with this folder file structure. So when you move folders into other folders or files into other folders, this is like a checker to say, oops, did you really want to do that? Or was that a mistake? And I really wanted to do this, so I'm going to click move. All right, so now you can see this inner folder inside the example folder has inner folder 2, which has these files in here, example 3. Okay, you can move files from one folder to another as well. So inside example 3, I want to move now this example 3 to the inner folder, the outer folder. And I did that now. Now inner folder 2 doesn't have anything. It lives inside inner folder, just at the same exact level as example 2 and example 3. It's at the same exact level. So you can open this as well in your search. If you right click the folder and click reveal in Finder, if you're on a Mac. If you're on a PC, it should you should say reveal in Explorer. And you should see everything as you've organized it in the Visual Studio here. Okay. It's important that you know how the layers are organized, both in your search or your Finder and your Visual Studio Code. So having knowledge of how to do both is just as helpful. Okay. So that's the basics of moving folders and files around here. When you type in Visual Studio Code, there's going to be a way to save your changes. So if I type in hello, and if I go to the top left of my screen, I say edit, I can undo what I just typed in and it'll erase it, or I can redo it and it'll put it back. I can highlight all of it and it will cut it. if I decide to cut it, that means it's going to cut it out and save it to my clipboard. A clipboard is this invisible place in your computer that you can copy and paste everything. I'm pretty sure most of us have used it, but in case you're not familiar, it's now cut. And if I right click and click paste, it's there again. Okay. There's also copy and paste. If I copy, I can press enter a few times. And if I paste now, I can paste this as many times as I need. There's also the shortcuts. You're gonna want to get familiar with these shortcuts. On the Mac, it's Command C, or on the PC, it's Control C. That's for copy. For cut, it's Control V. Okay, that's gonna. No wait, it's Command X on the Mac or Control X on the PC. And then to paste it, it's Control or Command V. I like these shortcuts. I think they're pretty easy to learn at the very beginning. We're not going to go over shortcuts now, just giving a heads up on how to do that. Okay. So that being said, how are we doing? Can I get a status check? Okay, great, fantastic. 100. All right. Last thing you want to know is how to save something. Okay. If I were to exit out of this Visual Studio without making any changes, it will not save my work. So there is the shortcut to use is Control S on your Windows, and for Mac it is Command S. Or another way to do it is once you're clicked on that file, you can do File, Save. Okay, I have autosave on, but it's not recommended that you use autosave. So unclick that if you have that clicked already. Okay. But for the demonstration purposes, for me showing you guys changes on code, I'm gonna keep it on. So always save after you've made some progress. If for some reason you've made some changes to your code, but it's still not working, usually it's because you didn't save it. Okay, at least starting off, that may be the reason. So always save your code. And because this file that we're working on here, for each file that we work on, it's going to give us a tab here at the top. So if I want to click to the, let me just make this full screen here. If I want to go to this first example, it will open this tab at the very top, and I can switch between different files by the number of files that I have available here at the very top, or you can use this Explorer on the left to switch through tabs. Okay. If you want to see multiple files at the same time, you can click this split editor. It looks like a book with a line in the middle here. If you click it, it will copy the folder that you're working on and duplicate it on the right-hand side. Okay. If I want to see example on the left and example 2 on the right, I just drag example 2 to the right. I have example still copied on the right. I want to close it if I don't want to see it. And now I can see both files at the same time. There's another way to do that is by, let's say I want to drag in, by the way, this tab is always going to be, oh, and that's my extension tab. So I want to close that. I don't need that right now. I want to also view it on the right, so I can just drag it to the right. And now I have my file on the left, file on the right. There's also another way to do that. Let's see. I can drag it to the bottom. And now I have a file on the top, file on the bottom. And you can go even further into this. You can do a file on the bottom right. Oh, didn't do it. It's a little bit tricky. I like to use that book button because I don't like to drag it, and that will produce the same effect. Okay. But for now, you will only need to watch and edit one file at a time. don't worry about doing this yet. Okay. Another important shortcut that I think you guys should know is the ability to make your text appear a little bigger, because when we're sharing our screen with each other and we're learning how and demonstrating what we're getting hung up on, sometimes the screen will make the text really small, or maybe you just like to view things at a smaller level or bigger level. So the way to change that is by holding down the command button or control button on if you're on PC, and press the plus button. The plus button is at the top right next to the numbers. So it's to the right of 0 on my keyboard. And if I hold down command and press the minus button, it'll make it smaller. Okay. That's that. You want to be able to increase your font size. I will ask you often to increase your font as you share your screen with me. Oh, and one other thing I should mention. Here at the bottom left, there's this icon here that is like a gear. And if you click it, you'll have a bunch of options on setting up your editor. Okay. In the future, you may want to edit the settings. I would recommend just leaving the settings as they are for now. But if you want to change, for example, the way your Visual Studio looks for the color, I have mine at a dark theme. You can click this here, the color theme, and you'll be able to view different available themes. Some Visual Studio themes will already be there. I have the Visual Studio default dark available. That's mine that I clicked. You can also browse additional themes. So there's lots of color combinations that coders have developed that they like to use. I'm going to just pick one cool sounding one, pale night, high contrast. I don't know about that. How about ocean, material theme ocean? Okay, ocean's like it's a little bit darker, it seems. And text is slightly different. Okay, so if I want to actually go back to my old color theme. And what I had, what was it? Dark. That one. Yeah. I don't need it that dark, but this is good. Okay. Cool. All right. So here's something you can do. You can copy and paste, make a readme.md. This is a common name for a type of file that people will attach to their projects to help explain what the project does and how it should work, how the user downloading this app should expect to see the code explained, or just any details that you want to put here. Okay, so there's this readme.md. I already made a bunch of MD files, but you can make your own MD file as I've demonstrated here, and copy and paste it in there just like that. Okay. Oh, that's the name of the file actually. So I want to copy the this material here. When you see a line, a section like this on the platform, if you hover over the top right, there's usually this option here that says copy. It's not on this one specifically, but usually you can just copy it straight from the platform like this. You can just highlight it, copy it, use the command Control C, or right click and say copy. And on this section here, you can type and paste. And that's how you create files. Okay. And that should cover that. Let's get a status check before I move to GitHub. Thank you for participating, everyone, and thank you for leaving your cameras on. I like to just glare at your faces every so often, make sure everyone's still alive. Everyone's still with me. Okay, cool. All right. So as I mentioned, GitHub is a place to save your code. Okay. This place is called a repository. It's a place to save your file folder structures. I won't get into how to use this just yet because it can be a bit complicated. The first core assignment here is to push to GitHub. But if you don't understand how to do this on your own, there's an explanation video here on how to use it. Don't worry about it. We are going to go over it in detail. I'm going to give a demonstration this afternoon on how to use this. There's multiple ways you'll be able to submit your assignment. You'll be able to submit your assignment either by giving us a link to the place where you've submitted your files on GitHub, or by making your folder a zip. And I'll show you how to do that right now. Let me go ahead and share a different screen here. I'll need to share my main screen. Is that one? This one? Yeah. Okay. This example folder that you see here on the right, that's the one I'm going to try to zip up. Okay. In case you don't see it, let me just use the zoom tools here. But it's pretty obvious. It's right there. This example folder. I'm going to right click and press compress example. And now it is compressed to a zip. So this way it can be sent easier because all the files are smushed together in a way that it can be unpackaged by another user on another end. Okay. So when I receive a zip file, I can also unzip it by double clicking it, and it will give me that same file here. Now it's called example2 because I already have this one called example. So my computer recognized there's already a folder here called example. So when I unzip this example zip, it's going to rename this one to example2. Okay. So when you submit assignments, if you haven't figured out for yourself how to use Git, and pushing to GitHub, then just compress to zip and submit your assignments this way. Okay. Like I said, I will be going over this more in detail this afternoon, how to use this, what GitHub is, how to use GitHub exactly. And there's multiple ways to use it. There's a desktop app. There is a way to use your terminal. It's a command line built inside your computer. Before we could see this file folder structure as we see here, it was some sort of older computers had this command line here. Let me show that. We're not gonna go into detail how to use this. I have mine at this red and blue color. It's gonna look black by default on yours if you open this. But it's gonna be able to, you're gonna be able to access your files by just typing the location here. Don't be intimidated by this. It's the same exact thing as seeing the folders and file thing on the right here. Okay. There's multiple ways to use Git though. There's going to be this terminal that you can use. There's the folder file structure, and there's the Git desktop app. Okay. I won't be going over every single way. We're going to just go over a standard way. But if you like to find a different way to use it, I like to use this terminal, for example. But I also use the desktop app. And I also use Visual Studio's available option, which is linked through the button on the left. So let me share screen. Let me switch my screens again here. Where is Zoom? Bear with me here. Can you guys see my screen right now? The blue. Here we are. Okay, back to Visual Studio. Okay, and so let's go over a few rudimentary rules on HTML. Okay. This will get us started so we can tackle our first assignments. Like I said, if you don't understand the Git assignment, just skip it. We can go into detail about how to use Git this afternoon. Okay, so if you don't understand how to make this work on your own, just skip it. We're going to go, these are the assignments we're going to want to tackle first. Okay, so we're going to have our example here on how to set up our projects. I already showed you how to make a folder file structure. And the first type of file that we're going to be working with is an HTML file. Okay, an HTML file, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's a language, it's a coding language. It's not exactly like a language that you would expect to run functions on, like JavaScript. A function is basically something that does something, is a machine, for example, that has a purpose. This is just going to be a way to make text appear on the screen. It's just a markup language. So for example, if we go to Wikipedia, okay, it is a very basic website. Okay, when you go here, it's very minimal colors, very minimal features. It's basically a white screen with text on it, some links on there, some images on there. When you work with HTML just by itself, it's going to be a lot like this. You're just going to be able to view a white background with black text, some links and images that you'll be able to apply to it. So let's go ahead and show you how to do that for now. Okay. All right. So the way we get started is let's start first by copying this, this here. So I am going to go back to my folder structure here. All these examples I'm going to delete because I no longer need to show you how to, actually, I don't need to delete it. I'm just going to make another folder here and I'm going to call this one HTML. This is going to be my HTML folder. Okay, and within my HTML folder, I'm going to click this file and I am going to build a file inside this folder called index.html. Okay, the reason I called it index is because when a file called index is saved in your folder, that's going to be the first one your browser looks for when you build your project for a online view. Okay, I'm going to turn my autosave on so I don't forget to save while I'm demonstrating here. Okay, so I have my index.html. Okay, and we're going to go over what each of these tags mean. But first, I'm just going to copy it over. Okay, I'm going to copy over to this index.html. By the way, when you see .html on the right-hand side, that's just showing what type of file it's going to be, obvious by the name of it, HTML. That's the type of file it is. Okay, so now my editor knows this is HTML. And by the way, now that you see this left side, they're highlighted that certain color at the place where it's indented. That's our extension at work. That's the rainbow extension. It gives us a view just saying everything is nice and evened out. Everything is at the same level here. So if I make a tab on this part here, now you see it's a slightly different color, and so on. It's going to change colors based on what level it is. Okay, I want it all at the same level, so I am going to keep it all the same color. Okay. All right. So for an HTML file, the way to understand what we're seeing here is by reading it from top to bottom. Okay. This first line, doc type, it's this open caret, exclamation mark, doc type, HTML, closed caret. Okay, these symbols we're going to call caret symbols, open and closed carets. This is telling the whole file itself. This is going to be an HTML file. And as you can see for the rest of the file, lines, excuse me, most of these lines have an opening and closing tag. Okay, so for line 2, we see open a caret HTML, and then it's going to say language English. This is telling our browser that we're working with an English language document, and then a closed caret. For this line here on line 2, the closing line is at line 12. Okay, so this line begins here. It has an opening tag and it has a closing tag. The way we know it's a closing tag is by the slash in front of the word HTML. So the difference between line 2 and line 1 is that line 1 doesn't need a closing tag. Okay, line 1 is unique. Line 2 has that closer. And as you can see in Visual Studio, whenever you click an opening or closing tag, it will highlight in a certain way, not exactly a direct highlight like this. When I click and drag over the file tag, that's a direct highlight. But this, for example, when I just click it, it'll show me where the closing tag is, if it exists. Okay, if there's some sort of error like this, if I put another extra closing tag and I highlight the first one, it will not highlight the second one here. That's because that's an extra one there, so that's unnecessary. And then within this HTML tag, inside this opening and closing tag is 2 parts. There is the head, which begins and ends on line 3 and 8, and the body, which begins and ends on line 9 and 12. Okay, so we have the doc type, which shows us what the HTML, what type of file it is. We still need this within the HTML file, even though the file is called .html. We always need this. We always need closing and opening and closing HTML tag. We need an opening and closing head tag and opening and closing body tag. Everything that goes within the HTML document is either going to go in the head tag or the body tag. Okay, now let's go over what this head tag contains. Don't worry about what these mean for now. These are just basic rules for the browser to understand and interpret the size of the document. Okay, and this title that goes inside the head is a reference to the name of the document. Okay, I'll show you what this means exactly in just a moment. Okay, and so once we leave this head tag, don't need to know what this is for now. In fact, I'll delete this. And once we exit this head tag, we know it's an exit because of the slash here. We enter the body. Okay, the body is the meat or the core of where we're going to be writing our HTML code in. There's different types of tags that you'll be using within the body tag itself. As you can see here, there's one tag here that says H1. H stands for header and 1 stands for level 1. So there's different types of tags, and we're going to go over what those mean exactly. But just know this is the structure for an HTML document. When you write an HTML file, this is how you're going to write it. And the body is where you're going to do the majority of the work in. The head is good for containing the title and these other rule sets that you don't need to know exactly what they mean for now. Don't overwhelm yourself with information. We're going to be learning exactly what goes inside here and how this works. And then we're going to be closing this lecture in a little bit. Okay, so let's get a status check to see how we're doing. I don't want to overwhelm you guys. Let me know how we're feeling so far. Tens. Cool.
Josh, I just have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
I would assume the default language is English, so even if we don't put in the language lang equals en, it would just assume it's English.
You're gonna want that tag every time. So always have this available. language English. Different browsers have different rules for how to interpret the HTML tag of the HTML file. For example, Safari may read this file a certain way and demonstrate and needs certain rules to interpret, different than Chrome or Firefox. But we're going to want to put these necessary rules so that as many browsers as possible, our HTML file is going to work.
Okay. And how can we how can we see where all the abbreviations are for the languages? For English is EN.
We can always do a quick search online. You can, do, for example, if you, this is a good way to segue into, and whenever we need to search for something like that that's not available on the platform, you can say, for example, on Google, different types of language tags for HTML. This is going to be an important skill for you as a developer, how to ask Google the right question to get the right answer you're looking for. This was a skill it took me a while to build up, but this is how you do that. So now I see the first available option is from W3. Remember, we mentioned that website at the beginning. So if you click W3 here, you're going to see here somewhere in this article, it's going to mention different types of language tags. So if I scroll through this, I may see one for French or Spanish. There's different types of English as well. Maybe an Australian English. For example, this one, ES is for Spanish. Okay. But let's not worry about that so much now. We're all going to be working in English tags anyways. And there's going to be a definite list if we do a deep enough search. Okay. Here, there's also W3 Schools that shows a list of languages. So here's the list, the official list here. Okay, good question. Any other questions? Okay, so we're already going over the time a little bit, but we need to cover this ground. So bear with me here. We're going to go over this a little bit quick here. And then we're going to recap at the end of the day if we have any questions. Okay, so what we need to know now is what types of tags go inside the body. Okay, so we already mentioned H1. I'm going to show you what this what this does. Okay, so if I right click on my HTML file, or if I right click on the file itself on the folder file structure here, if I right click here and I click copy path, I will be able to open a new tab and enter here where you would enter different browser names. You can Command V or paste, right click and paste and go to this here. This is the location of the file in my computer. Click enter, and you'll be able to see this here. This word example that you see here on the browser is because it's an H1 tag. There's a header level 1 tag here. Okay, this word example that appears in the title tag within the head is what you're going to see here on the tab itself. So here we see Google Chrome, downloads, Wikipedia, HTML. Here, example is where I see this. So if I type in something else here, hello, if I type in hello and I refresh, now you'll see hello there. Okay. And there are different common tags that we want to use. H1 is the highest level of a header. So when you go to a page and you see a header at the very top, for example, this Wikipedia page, this is the main header to the page, right? It's at the very top. It's the biggest one. That would what we assume is the header level 1. Okay, so there's header level 2. It's a different size. I'm going to type in hello world. And I think I accidentally clicked out. So I'm just going to go there by going to copy path, pasting it in. And now you see hello world is a little bit smaller. Okay. There's also a P tag, which stands for paragraph. Okay. And as you can see, each tag has an opening and closing itself. Okay. So you've got to remember, if you don't have an opening and closing for these tags, they're not going to work. Except for certain other tags, which I'll specify. But for P stands for paragraph, so that means just basic text. So I can type in, hello, this is a P tag. Now my mouse is acting slow, but now you can see here, it is there. It's just a basic text. It's not highlighted. It's not boldened any color. It's a certain size. Hello P tag. Okay. I know it may be a little bit small. I can increase the size of the font here, so you can see. And there's a plethora of other tags that we'll be needing to learn. Okay. It's all going to be on the platform, so we don't have to memorize exactly yet what these tags do and what they're meant for. But we will know where to access them on the platform as we go along. Okay. So let's go through this really quickly. So we're over on time anyway. Okay, here's what we already done. The H1 tag and a P tag. This is already selecting it by another file in the CSS file. We'll go over that later. But so this P tag here may have a way to access this P tag using the class system. This is a way to identify this specific P tag. So if I wanted to give this a size, width, or color on another type of file for another type of language called CSS, which is going to be used to color and edit those tags, that's going to be used in that way. Okay. Lastly, I want to go over a couple other tags here, the div tag and the image tag. Okay. So the div tag, div stands for division. It stands for division in the code. All right. Often we're going to want to divide sections of code into different areas. For example, if we look into this HTML page here, you're going to see this section on the left, today's featured article, and then in the news on the right. These would be different divs. So when you look at a page now, from now on, whenever you go to a browser, because you are now web developers in the making, you'll be able to look at these sections on a page and say, okay, I see from this section, from this area here to the left to the right is a certain div. From this whole square here onto this header here, that's another div, and so on and so forth. Okay, so a div is used to divide the pages into different sections, and an image tag is used to display an image, right? We know what this is, right? An image would be like this tag here, where we see something colorful, right? So as you can see here, oops, sorry. This image tag doesn't have a closing tag to it. It just lives with the opening tag by itself. Okay, it has different features to it. The SRC equals walk animation GIF. This is the place in your file folder structure where it lives. This is how you access that certain image. Okay, so if I had an image, it would live on this area here. I'd have a specific folder where I put all my images, and that SRC is going to access those images. This alt is if for some reason that image doesn't load, a certain amount of text is going to appear that says what that image is and what it's supposed to stand for. Okay, so let's get a status check on how we're feeling so far. and then close it out with any questions we have left. Cool. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, great. Well, then I'm going to close out the lecture at this point. I think you guys are at a good start to go ahead and read the platform and start reading for yourself, start learning what these different tags do and their purpose, and go ahead and get to these core assignments that we're going to be able to submit very shortly. Okay. Thank you guys for being such a great class. I appreciate you guys listening and giving me your undivided attention. Let's go ahead and close out now and look at the calendar here to learn when we're going to be back here. So at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, we're going to go do our first demonstration of our profile page. We're going to go over different forms because a website doesn't just display information, it takes in information. For example, when you log in, it's going to be a form. There's going to be different lists and tables that we see on our HTML page, and we're going to be able to demonstrate how to submit this code to GitHub. Okay, so at 2 p.m. we want to be back for this demo. Enjoy your guys' lunch. There's an open lab time before and after lunch. At 12, I'll be out for lunch myself. So take advantage of this open lab time to work on your assignments and help each other out, get to know each other. And good luck, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just a heads up, I've got a meeting to head to. I did set up some breakout rooms if you'd like me to open them up, just for based on the assignments that we've got for today, and then a couple extras.
Okay. Yeah, I have I've set up, let me go ahead and stop this recording before I talk anymore. Sorry, Christian.
All good. Yeah, if you've got some preset ones, that's fine too. Just use those.
Yeah, I haven't learned how to, I've already designed the preset ones, but I haven't figured out how to actually make that work for me yet. So